Hey, it's Alicia, and welcome to one of our sessions at home. My guest today has been a friend of Indie 1023 since her first visit to our studio in 2017. She's an acclaimed English singer-songwriter, and I'm guessing you've heard her music on the station. Maybe you've seen her on TV, on a late night show. And for me, I've even heard her songs as I've carted through the grocery store. From to her latest single, Head Start, and all the songs in between. Hello and welcome to Jade Bird.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm great. Yeah, I was just saying to you, I've been making crepes this morning and living the life of the modern musician. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're from London, but now we're almost in the same time zone-ish. You recently moved to Austin, Texas.
I did. It was a big move. We've been here for like 2 weeks now, maybe 2.5. It's really not been that long at all, as you can tell by the lack of art on the walls. Yeah.
Why did you choose Austin over everywhere else?
I think I really wanted somewhere quite grounded, somewhere, where the mentality didn't feel too far from home. And Austin does have a roundabout way of doing that. I also kind of like the way it was a step away from Nashville, where I'm based a lot now, and also LA. So it kind of just felt right. And our buddies were obviously moving here, renewing their lease. So we were like, this is just feels like fate, feels perfect. So we made the leap of faith, so to speak.
Nice. Have you been able to explore the city much over the last 2 weeks?
I mean, a little. We've been to, I always get it wrong, Ziplo Park.
Yeah, sure.
I'm expecting you to know. But we went to a really big park. We've I've been cooking a hell of a lot, so we've not been eating out too much. But I think when with this vaccine stuff comes now, I think a lot of places you go out to will end up getting a bit more kind of back to normal. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of waiting for all of that.
Yeah, I feel like I've gotten to know my neighborhood really good since the pandemic, like walking around, like looking in people's windows, smelling the neighborhood. It's like, oh, they're doing laundry, they're cooking dinner.
I mean, you're so right there, 110%, exactly.
So you said you've been cooking a lot during the pandemic. This is a hobby now that you've sort of picked up, or have you always done that?
No, I've certainly not always done that at all. I think it's the curse of having a mom that like cooks so incredibly. It's just like you're never wanting to ever cook because you're just like, why would I bother when my mom makes all this stuff? So whereas now I've moved out, my mom's back in England, so I'm like, I'm trying to channel her. I'm making like shepherd's pies and English stuff. And I was watching The Crown yesterday. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm really trying to bring England to Texas.
What about Great British Bake Off?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I don't think I've missed a few seasons, so I don't want to, I'm going to go back, I think, whenever I get the time to.
Yeah. So at the end of our chat, you've recorded some songs for us. So I'm so excited for folks to be able to see you perform Houdini and Head Start, and also another new song that starts with an H. Is it Honeymoon?
It is Honeymoon, yeah. I play that live a lot. I did play that live a lot. It's quite an old one, so I was like, I'll throw it in there. It's on the new record too.
Oh, good. So before we talk about upcoming record and everything, I just want to know and check in. We are on month 9 of this global pandemic. So what does this look like for you? I mean, you're kind of getting settled into Austin right now, but
Yeah, I mean, a lot of internet we've been filming. So I moved in with my videographer slash photographer. So we've been able to like record some really cool stuff. So for example, we did the Houdini live video by some like abandoned well, it wasn't abandoned. There was a train running right through the train tracks, but I found this little place and we set up by the train tracks, us four, and just kind of recorded a full live video in this really cool, unique space. So we've been doing some little field stuff like that, but mainly it's no different from anyone else. We're all in the same boat now, at least, yeah.
yeah. So it sounds like you're actually being really productive and working. I know some musicians that I talk to, they're having a tough time like writing songs or even like uh, having that energy to connect with fans and such. So
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure, I think. If I hadn't have written my album, so I wrote a lot of it in January and a lot of it in July, and mostly finished the album in July. And I think if I was having to really write off tour just being cancelled and having to write a new album, I think the pressure of the times, you know, you're writing with the times. I think I would have really struggled as well. You know, it's too focused, and even if your art isn't necessarily political all the time, it must be quite a heavy thing to go, is this appropriate for me to write this way, or, you know, is this how I truly want to write, and etc., etc. I imagine that's quite difficult.
Yeah, I noticed early on in the pandemic, maybe back in April, you posted something online that you and your friends were writing a song a day together. Are you still doing that, or was that kind of short-lived?
It was a little short-lived. I mean, we did it for a couple of weeks, which is like, you know, at least a good couple of songs. But everyone was on an email chat thing, and everyone would just send a song every day. And, you know, we could have gone more in depth. We could have had themes and stuff, but it really made me realize that everybody's got their own style, and there's no point jamming people together because they're just so uniquely them, you know, in their writing habits. So I was like, it was really useful for me as well, because I was kind of dipping in mood a little bit at that point, feeling really uninspired. So I really found that very useful to do.
Very cool. As far as distractions go, are you watching any cool new TV, or besides The Crown, or any new films that you want to recommend?
It's a great question. We watched Being John Malkovich last night.
So good.
Which is absolutely incredible. I mean, I loved it. But distractions, you know, my partner bought me a little kind of notepad, and I've been writing like poetry. We've also been trying to paint some like art for our new room. We've gone very like Mexican 60s, I think, because the yellow walls are already yellow. So
Yeah.
yeah. So we've been buying quite cheap mirrors and just painting over the mirrors. So yeah, painting, cooking, kind of all the fun stuff really. It's dog walking, you know, all the good stuff.
Daisy, your dog, makes an appearance in the video that you recorded for us.
Yeah, I know. She's like proper, like she looks at you as so like,
So sweet. Very good backup singer too. Consider
yeah,
that for album number 2.
yeah.
So just this week, Spotify dropped their 2020 Wrapped lists. Did you look at the infographics on your music, or I'm sure you're getting tagged a lot by your fans?
I mean, tagged a lot. So my manager, Kate, she won't let me have Spotify artists because I get a bit obsessive. You know, I'm a bit like, who's listening to my music at all times? So she's like, you're not having the login details for that. You can have your personal. But Wrapped has been really sweet. Like, so many people have been reaching out, and it's just nice collective at the end of a tough year. You know, you've been way more than just background music for a lot of people, which is kind of a massive privilege. So that's always a lovely end to the year, no matter if you've been working, if you've not, you know, but this year especially.
What do you think was your top listened to artist?
Mine was actually, oh my goodness, I've forgotten. Who was it? It's either Elliott Smith or Alex G came up, because I love that Rocket album.
Yeah.
Haim was on there, I think. I can't remember who was my top. That's really bugging me. I literally only did it last night with the guys. We all did like our dinner table chat and took the mickey out of each other. But my grandma and my mum are on my personal account, so it just ends up being a load of me.
You get skewed. You're like, I don't listen to myself all the time.
It looks like the most narcissistic Spotify Wrapped you've ever seen in your life. I daren't share any of it because it's like, who did I listen to? It's Jade Bird. I'm like, oh, grandma.
Oh, I love that. That's so great. And then also, I'm wondering, let's look at your music. Your song Head Start got like 650,000 listens in the first week on Spotify alone. Does that just feel nuts to you? I mean, I think that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, of course. And you're always measuring. The problem with probably doing a second record is you're always measuring. You're always like against the first. And I think Lottery might have had a similar kind of trajectory, which was so positive because it was my, you know, other successful kind of song. I think for me, it's just always nice to come back in on a second record and know that your fans are still there, or like people who I kind of talk about music with. They're all still there, and they're all still commenting, and they're all kind of feeling a part of this journey still. And that was the biggest thing I take away, as opposed to, you know, numbers. It can get a bit weird, I think, numbers, a bit kind of formulaic, so to speak.
I feel like you're so genuine and sweet online on social media with your fans, and you've done live streams and everything for them. I've really enjoyed some of the Instagram ones and all the cool covers and stuff that you're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, how do you like this personally for you?
Social media, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I love the aspect that I can talk to fans, and what I love so much is the fact that every fan who comments is like, I saw you at Albany, I saw you in Connecticut, I saw you in, so and so, and you did this and I did this. And I'm like, I love that, because for me it ignites this whole memory instantaneously. It's like Denver, when they're like, I saw you in Denver at the Halloween show. I know my partner Luke and my bassist Linus were dressed up as me for Halloween. So then I think about the show, I think about us laughing, I think about meeting the people after the show, and it just, yeah, I think that's my favorite thing about social media, is being able to have that connection all the time. I love that.
What do you think it's going to be like after, like, and talking to fans after shows and stuff?
Now,
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite interesting because I was touring Europe in February before things really got heavy, and I actually stopped going out because I was like, oh, it didn't feel sensible for me to do that at that point. But I think there's always where there's a will, there's a way, and be it on a live stream, be it after shows, just keeping a lot of distance. And we've got a vaccine coming. There's been some good stuff from the UK. So I'm feeling tremendously positive about next year. I'm trying to stay in that mindset, I think.
Yeah. What's the coolest live stream you've done, do you think, in the pandemic?
Coolest live stream. I love the first one we did, me, Luke, in March, I think it was. We just sat there with our guitar and sung everything we wanted to sing. But I also loved, we did this Microsoft one that was like really loads of production value. And I think the next one will be amazing, because I'm trying to go back to the studio where I recorded everything in Nashville. It fell through for COVID reasons, obviously, which was really gutting, but I'm feeling like, when we get that, it's going to be amazing. I'm going to, it's best I've ever sung, best the band's ever sounded, so I'm looking forward to that, I think.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about album number 2. I know it's coming out in 2021. Are you allowed to say the name of it or any dates or anything yet?
So not the name yet. The dates are going to align with when I can play live, because it's just so important. I kind of go to a gig and you can pick up 100 fans from one gig. And that's kind of how I should grow. That's the kind of artist I am. You see me live, you're in the club. And so it doesn't make any sense kind of slightly to release the full thing until I can really project it as I would on stage. That said, I'm not going to wait like a whole year to release the record. But it might be autumn, next year. So we'll see. It's all up in the air at the minute.
And you mentioned going to Nashville to record this. You worked with the producer Dave Cobb, who's been nominated for some Grammys, and he's very
Actually, yeah.
So tell me about recording an album with him during the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really interesting process. So we started off in March in his basement of his house. It's not kind of like your eyes basement, it's a studio basement. But even so, it's pretty unique. And it was a tryout. I was doing 3 songs, Houdini, funny enough, maybe Head Start, and another one I can't quite remember. And we were all there in the basement, and we all track it all live, and you play it no more than 3 times. And then Dave's like, that's it, that's the one. You're like, really? Do you not need me to do the vocal again? He's like, no, that's the one. And then you just do very, very few overdubs on the top, like a mellotron, or things you didn't quite get right. So then March happened. I came back. I was like, he's the guy, absolutely no doubt. We had to fly back in the summer through Mexico City for 2 weeks, quarantine in this little apartment, where I wrote a lot of the album, by the way. And then we got into Nashville and had 2 weeks to just finish the whole record, doing the same process but on a much bigger scale. But it was the most fun I've ever had recording in my life, hands down.
Was it hard for you, or were you used to just those 3 takes, those 3 audio takes about-ish for a song? Was that hard, or is that pretty normal for you?
The musicians are so good that it's like, yeah, I don't disagree with anything Dave's saying. I'm really forthwith in my opinion, but when he was saying, listen to this take, and I'm like, yeah, that is the second take is the one. And I like to move on quickly. When I'm writing songs, when I'm creating, I'm like, next thing, next thing, next thing. I think it's because I'm a bit of a hyperactive spirit, but so that way of doing things works so great for me because it gets a bit arduous. I'm not really like you hear about Radiohead spending like a year on their records, for incredible records, and maybe I will do a record like that, but I feel like that might not be my process. I think it's more of a Dave in the room, get it done, there's the magic.
Mm-hmm. Have you done any Radiohead covers?
I have.
Yeah.
Did you know that before you asked?
No, I totally didn't, but I was just thinking about it because I was just reminiscing on like a Smiths cover you did and stuff. So yeah, what'd you do?
Yeah, we did Black Star. We used to play it live all the time, and we nabbed it off a Gillian Welch, Dave Rollins version. And I was like, whoa, you could hear all the lyrics. They're so meaningful. Because I think Tom York might have been a bit embarrassed about his words when he was young, and so you can't hear the amazing lyrics in the original that much. Whereas when she sung it, I was like, it hits me there. So me and my partner always sing that on tour and in live streams because we love it. We're such big fans. It's a beautiful song.
I gotta look that up. Have you covered Sonic Youth? I see you're wearing a Sonic Youth.
I mean, as much as I wish I could get away with like Karen's Tunic or something.
Yeah, right?
No. Maybe the next experimental record with the one there, maybe I'll go for it. But the bass I picked up in the studio, this little bass, and it felt like, wow, I could actually play this instead of the big burly man thing that is like, I guess that Kim plays, but I'm quite small, so I just felt like the little bass was amazing. It's just like it's not miniature, but it's like smaller. So maybe we'll see a Kim Gordon moment. Who knows?
That would be cool. Are you going a little bit more electric on this new album, or is it pretty acoustic?
Quite electric, yeah. We really got to have fun with the guitar parts, and my partner's a guitarist, so you can imagine the fundamental injection of that influence is going to have. But the next song I'm going to release, I'm almost certain I'm releasing that one. It's like I'm doing the riff on the electric. I wrote the riff on the electric, so I'm like, this is it's kind of my bread and butter. I on the Spotify Wrapped, rock is my first category. But yeah, I'm so excited for people to hear that side of me because I don't think it's come out enough thus far.
Yeah, this is very cool to watch your evolution, and we are here for it at Indie 1023. Couple more questions before we go, and before we get to the bonus performance from you, and maybe an appearance from Daisy. Okay, an appearance. So you're from the UK, you're living here in the US. Yep. What are your thoughts on like the government's response to COVID and such, like maybe there versus here, if you're familiar? Or
very surreal.
Yeah.
I mean, did you see the New York Times cover with all the people who passed for COVID, and it listed them all, and it gave little details about them all? I mean, that for me was the most powerful thing, because I think too often America, being the great capitalist country, capital it is, too often it misses out on the individual. And there's a lot of things I see that, including like healthcare and stuff like that. People aren't numbers, people are families, people suffer, and you can't broad brush, can't just like say, oh, well, 200,000 of people will die, but, we'll move on and we'll make more money. It feels an insanely dystopian capitalist opinion on like death. It's just insane. At the same time, everyone I've met, maybe it's because I'm in different circles, but they take it really seriously, and as do I. So it's really kind of telling about the culture, maybe it being quite unsympathetic. But hopefully, being changing tides. There's been a lot of talk about the healthcare as well, which I'd love to see in my lifetime, some sort of insurance for people. So we'll see. But as you know, I can't sit here and say, oh, it's been amazing, the reaction. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And just watching the suffering of the music industry and everything, I feel for you. I know that you'd probably just be like wrapping up a tour right now, getting ready to go home for holiday, then get back out on the road or something.
Well, our government's no better. Our government put out a campaign being like retrain, reskill. If you can't go out, they had this whole campaign of like there was one of a ballet dancer and it just had on the top of it retrain. And I'm like, wow, okay. So do you have any idea what the UK would be without its culture? You
Yeah.
know, Manchester, for God's sake. I mean, that was the 90s
It's
worldwide.
synonymous. Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, there's a lot of things that are quite telling with governmental campaigns right now, I'd say.
Hmm. Well, you're such a positive person, and I think we should end on like a sweet note. Like, do you have any advice or anything you can say for people that are getting through this time now to, like what are you doing on the daily to get through the now?
Say vaccines are coming, which
Yeah.
is exciting. On the daily, it's tough. You know, I think exercising is really important, even if it's just a walk a day. I've been bouldering down the gym. I mean, like I watched that. There's a documentary called Free Solo. Have you seen that?
Yes. So good.
Ah, and I'm like, not that I ever want to do that, but I've been like climbing up. I think, it's nice, it makes us appreciate family. It makes us know that we don't need everything that Instagram influencers have to be happy. It's quite the opposite. So I think it's a positive reflection all in all, despite, I wouldn't choose it. But I think it's getting us all a bit more grounding, I hope, that will stick with us for the future.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I just want to thank you so much for joining me, Jade Bird. You're very kind, and I wish you all the best and great health and everything. My name's Alicia. Stick around. I've got a special bonus from Jade for you. She recorded 3 songs special for Indie 1023, and there's an appearance from Daisy in it. And this was super fun. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alicia. Take care. I'm going to go back to making my crepes now. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Hey KVOQ, my name's Jade Bird. I'm going to play you a few songs today, some released, some unreleased. This first one is called Head Start. They say it's around you different than I usually do. They say that I've even given special treatment. I deny it, but I can. What you don't seem to understand is I won't just take your hand. I've left signs, but you take no notice. Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard? I've given you a head start. I know it goes so easy, but come on. What do you need to see? I'm giving you a head start. Yeah. I've more pride than many. This is kind of rare for me. Everyone knows that it's true. You're the only one in the room, but you don't see me, do you? Must be blind, how not to. That's alright, I'll keep on putting myself online. Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard? I'm giving you a head start. I know it's so easy, but come on. What do you need to see? I'm giving you a head start. Is there a way to get your attention without looking like a fool? Should I slip it in our conversations? By the way, I love you. Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard? I'm giving you a head start. I know it's goes on easy, but come on. What do you need to see? I'm giving you a head start. Ooh, 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 ooh. Thank you so much for listening to me today. We've got a dog called Daisy. As you can hear, she's my backing singer, my pride and joy, and our house best friend, basically. So yeah, that's what you're gonna hear tonight. This next song I'm gonna play is it's a slower one. It's a little bit about my past in a way. It's called Houdini. It's 2:45 and it's clear to me that you're leaving. Usually we don't come to blows till the evening. Now the neighbors are out on the street trying to hear what we're screaming about. Thank you very much for listening. That was Houdini. So the final third H I'm going to play is an unreleased song off the album. It's called Honeymoon. I've been serenading Daisy and you, KVOQ. Thank you so much for having me. Denver, I'll be there very, very soon. Say goodbye, Daisy. Say goodbye. Goodbye. Bye-bye. Bye.